Jim Bush will be a little upset this week.
Brian. Is this your stuff here, Brian?
You guys.
What about Mr. Daniel? Mr. Cofer is working on him right now.
Now, what about that?
Got you.
What about that?
Can you hear me now, Brian?
I can hear you.
All right, I got y'all.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started. This is a special call meeting concerning the reopening of schools in Camden County. Of course, everybody knows what's going on. They've got a lot of time spent on designing this plan. I know that things have changed on. I appreciate the staff working on it really hard. Things are constantly changing, so let's get on with the meeting. First,
Mr. Daniel.
Here.
Mr. Elrod.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Turner.
Here.
Chairman Fain.
here.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 present, none absent. You do have a quorum, sir.
Item number 1 is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second? Second's been made. All right.
Motion made by Mr. Sanders, seconded by Mr. Turner to approve the agenda of the July 23rd, 2020 special call meeting of the Camden County Board of Education. Mr. Daniel.
Aye.
Mr. Elrod.
Aye.
Mr. Sanders.
Aye.
Mr. Turner.
Aye.
Chairman Fain.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Item number 2 is to approve the naming of Camden County schools as critical infrastructure. Mr. Curtis, you want to explain that?
I can. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have in your packets, Camden County Board of Education policy, proposed Camden County Board of Education policy 5.1152. In this, what this does, and looks at everybody around it, all the surrounding counties have adopted similar measures to do it with their employees. And I'll be glad to read that, Mr. Chairman, if you desire to do that. This is to designate our employees as the Department of Homeland Security previously defined critical infrastructure employees, workers that include educators supporting public and private K-12 schools, colleges, and universities for the purposes of facilitating, disciplining, or performing other essential functions.
Oh, it's the board meeting approving the schedule for school
That goes on.
and approving the change of the school being something infrastructure.
Successfully stop. Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, do you want me to read this? I can read the entire thing, but what this does is designate our employees under the law as being critical infrastructure employee designation. I did put for your reference, and we'll talk about this in the plan, a chart that deals with when employees and what we will do. And Mr. Patterson's worked on this as well as some others have aided us on other systems, have aided us on this. The Department of Health disagrees with what happens if an employee does screen for COVID-19. So I'll be glad to read this if you want to read this, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody want to read it aloud?
But what I ask you to do, what I ask the board to do is to go in and approve this policy to designate the Camden County schools and our employees as critical infrastructure employee designations. And this would be to adopt CCBE policy 5.1152.
Any discussion? Mr. Daniel?
Read that again, Mr. Freddie.
I won't read the agenda or read you to read the critical infrastructure employee designation.
That last part there.
Okay, we'll read that. This is, again, board policy, proposed board policy 5.1152. At times, the school system may face extraordinary events such as a public health emergency, natural disasters, or any other emergency which may require alterations to normal district operations. During these occasions, the school board or director of schools may designate some or all staff as quote critical infrastructure, unquote employees. The Department of Homeland Security previously defined critical infrastructure, unquote, employees, workers who include educators supporting public and private K-12 schools, colleges, and universities for the purposes of facilitating distance learning or performing other essential functions, unquote. The Department of Homeland Security also previously defined that, in quote, individual jurisdictions should add or subtract essential workforce categories based on their own requirements and discretion. As noted by the American Academy of Pediatrics, quote, schools are fundamental to child and adolescent development and well-being and provide our children and adolescents with academic instruction, social and emotional skills, safety, reliable nutrition, physical speech, and mental health therapy and opportunities for physical activity, among other benefits, end quote. As a designated critical infrastructure workplace, Cannon County Schools is committed to the following guidelines as part of our obligation to manage potentially exposed employees during the health pandemic as they return to work in ways that reasonably protect the health of those employees, their workers, our students, and the general public. Employees who have had a potential exposure to a person as defined by the CDC and by this policy will remain entirely asymptomatic themselves will adhere to the following practices. Pre-screening. Each school or office location will check the exposed employee's temperature and assess symptoms prior to the start of each school day, such as an exposed employee must contact the school office on his or her arrival to a building, and someone will come to complete the screening prior to his or her entrance into any school building or function. Secondly, regular monitoring. As long as the temperature or other symptoms are not present, such an exposed employee will self-monitor with assistance from the school nurse. Wear a mask. Such an exposed employee will wear a face mask while in any building for a period of time, which totals 14 days after his or her last COVID-19 exposure. The district will supply face masks for a week and approve the employee's personal mask selection. Social distance. Such an exposed employee will maintain social distance of 6 feet or more as practical within the workplace. Disinfect and clean workspaces. Custodial staff will be alerted to more thoroughly address the cleaning needs of exposed employees' classroom or designated workspace. If an employee has had an exposure as defined under this policy, and if that employee develops any COVID-19 symptoms, the employee is asked to stay home and alert his or her supervisor. This was looked at by our board attorney, and he looked at particularly regarding the staff screening flow chart for critical infrastructure. And this is, again, is a chart that most top schools in the Upper Cumberland have adopted. And this goes with the CDC guidelines and the health department guidelines. And we adjusted this this afternoon from changes that were made from the Department of Health. And again,
So it's following.
Employees, 4 employees.
So it's following all current guidelines.
Yes, sir, Mr. Elroy.
As it gives you, do the best you can. That's what it says. That's what you're wanting us to vote on. Do the best you can what they've offered you to work with.
That's correct.
Any further discussion?
So let me ask this flow chart, what has to happen for these steps to take place? Is it an honor system? Is it principal and nurse?
We ask our personnel, particularly principals, to make sure that they have a designee who will perform a temperature check every morning for all staff. And then again, this is self-reporting too. What you're saying, this is, you are doing this as part of the being an employee in Cannon County, that you are saying that these are not occurring. And so the questions are asked, we do that. In fact, we start with that in our offices as a model where you answer the questions. And then particularly, and this is a very important one, is number one, form a temperature check. We have thermometers. We have those already purchased through our ESSER fund. buildings. And we have those thermometers in place, and they will be checking temperatures, and then to ask if you had close contact, and here's the kicker. 6 feet for 10 or 15 minutes, kissing, drinking, after, in the last 14 days with the person tested positive for COVID-19. And then we go from there. So if there's one symptom, then it goes down to where it's in red. If there was exposure to symptoms or case, then you go by the CDC guidelines. And then if there are no flags, then you would proceed to sue. So each employee will be handed this, and this will be what we, the guidelines that we will utilize until this crisis is concluded.
So, Mr. Curtis, it's all self-reported. It's not mandated by any supervision on any site.
Correct. Now, if we observe a temperature, if somebody comes in and we observe a temperature of 100.4 or more, then we would have to, we will send them home. There will be some problem with the temperature above that.
Clarify for me something you said, Mr. Curtis. The teachers and staff will be having a temperature check upon arrival?
Absolutely, Tim. This is for staff. Staff will have their temperature. We'll talk about students in the rest of the. This is for employees.
And that's going to occur every day?
Every day.
For an undetermined.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most all employers are doing that currently and making sure that temperatures are checked. And then they're asking, did you have close contact? Got to think 104 more in the last 48 hours. Any of those other symptoms, new resident shortness of breath, new cough, new loss of smell or taste. If yes, you need to consider them symptomatic, and we'll focus on the timeline.
So obviously, our nurses can't be at every school, so have we decided yet how that's going to work?
We have principals will be doing this, or designees will be doing this each day.
I take it principals are comfortable?
I don't know about comfortable, that's a relative term, Mr. Chambers, and this one that we live in, it's not about comfort, but it's obeying the current CDC and Tennessee Department of Health guidelines.
But I know somebody's asked to, what do we have in place for the principals? So let's say.
They check their own temperatures, yes, sir. Because our principals, sir.
Right, but let's say, I walk in and, I answer yes to all of this, and if that principal of the designee potentially contaminated, or are they gonna have masks and protective? What are other systems doing?
We are strongly recommending masks. Rutherford County is currently debating that. I know we're not Rutherford County, but they're currently debating that. And they are requiring masks for all of their employees. Nothing.
When it talks about wearing a mask, it says, page 2, line 4, we can approve the employee's personal mask selection.
That's correct. The principal will be in charge of making sure that those masks are, and we can provide. We do have masks on in our inventory currently. We can provide masks.
The principal is the one that would approve, say.
The employee's personal mask selection. I'll be up to the building principal. I would say, and also in conjunction with the school nurse.
Anybody else have any questions? This time I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Daniels, if you make the motion.
I don't want to mention names here, but there are a lot of people that are involved in putting all this together, but I can't tell you how much we appreciate the work that's been put into this. Come You know, nothing's 100%, but we're gonna do the best we can. I appreciate the work you put into that.
City attorney had reviewed this policy, what about TSBA?
TSBA also has reviewed it. This came from another school system, and TSBA has responded to Ms. Jennifer White earlier today.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second? Second's been made. Call roll.
Mr. Daniels,
Aye.
Mr. Elrod,
Aye.
Mr. Sanders,
Aye.
Mr. Turner, Chairman Finn.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Item number three, approve the continuous learning plan, in the Tennessee Department of Education.
I'd like to take this and just say to the people that are listening, the continuous learning plan is to be uploaded to the Tennessee Department of Education. You necessarily do not have to approve the continuous learning plan if the reopening plan you do. But the continuous learning plan is a plan that we have to submit. There are 8 different parts of the plan. And in that plan, it is very detailed. We had a task force and we did exactly what was in the guide we received from the state of Tennessee, the toolkits. And we worked on that and we worked from that format, and then these formats were done. And in the learning plan itself, it's divided into sections. It's kind of cumbersome because it's done in E-plan. If you're familiar with E-plan, it's done that way. So we look at health and safety, attendance, transportation, academics, technology, and communication are all parts of this plan. And the plan that you see in your packet that you have there, the components of the plan, is basically the CLP. So I would ask the board just to say that the County Board of Education reviewed the continuous learning plan, and that would be uploaded to the Tennessee Department of Education. That's the motion I'd like to see the board make. And then we'll get the nuts and bolts with the next item on the agenda, number 4. But we have our individuals. We had different chairmen. There were different task force. Part of the task force was Bonnie Patterson, who was the chairman of the task force, and she also led the safety and field part of this. Ms. Lisa Black, and she also did the attendance. So Ms. Patterson was health and safety and attendance, so she did a lion's share of the work on part of this policy dealing with health and safety and attendance. Also, Ms. Lisa Black worked on and met with bus drivers and others on the transportation committee. Dr. Marsha Melton headed the academics committee, as well as our principals. We had principals that were on all of these subcommittees. And then the technology, Mr. Cofer led the effort there in the technology part as well, and I did the communications part. This was a lot of work was put into this plan. Hours and hours and hours were put into this plan as we worked for basically since the 1st of July all the way through. Of course, we had some days off for the 4th of July holiday. But after that, then with the school blast, we returned, and our committees have not stopped. They have worked tirelessly on the continuous learning plan. So I would ask that you, the motion would be that you have reviewed the continuous learning plan that will be uploaded to the Tennessee Department of Education.
Which one is that? Or is it that?
This is the entire plan, yes, sir, in the packet, the reopening plan. The CLP is all in that. And there's a lot on the CLP. It's not just the narrative. You have the narratives in front of you, but there are, help me out, Ms. Patterson, hundreds of artifacts that we this has not been an easy task. It's not like 3 or 4 sentences. It has been multiple artifacts. And if we were to print that out, that would be, and I consider doing it. But if we printed that out, Ms. Mullins, you had the actual production of this, how many pages would you think that would be?
And a lot of it is board policy that has been previously approved, and used artifacts, and so it was just overwhelming evidence of what we had in place and how we were actually that in our discussion format.
Did you say we have enough supplies to handle all this cleaning and?
We will get into that here in a few, we'll get into that in a few moments. The answer, that is, we'll have to be careful with that answer, Mr. Chairman. But we'll talk about that here in just a minute.
In the bus situation, what about cleaning the school buses? Are all the drivers responsible for that, or?
Talk about that into the plan, if you'd like to get that motion, CLP to be, everything in this motion is reviewed, and we'll come back to that's the votes in the plan.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Well, hey, real quick, I'm looking at this plan, trying to read it. I just got it. We're still going, like, we're going to go live August 11th. It's still the plan in this plan right here, what I'm reading. It's got the schedule of events from 5th on right there. So the 11th is what we're planning on still.
Yes, that is my from hearing you correctly, Mr. Elrod. Yes, we're still planning on a regular rollout on the 11th. But like I say, we'll get to the plan. We'll talk about that.
That 11th, and then I know we've got a lot of that I was hearing from the August the 29th date from the governor. Especially for any kind of group activity. I know that was with the athletics, but I guess my question would be, if it's the 29th for the football players on a football field as opposed to a classroom environment.
Right. In the plan, we did not address the athletic portion. We deferred to the Tennessee ZOSAA and their recommendations regarding athletics.
Right. Well, what I was getting at is
not with another plan yesterday, I believe. Review currently by athletic directors. Ms. Wallace.
It's not clarifying, so the continuous learning plan.
I will come to Mike, Ms. Wallace.
Just to maybe clarify any confusion, the continuous learning plan is being required by all school districts in Tennessee. So it is a plan that has 8 different sections, as Mr. Curtis alluded to. It is academics, attendance, the health and safety, and things along that nature. We had to.
Is that available for public, or is that administration only?
It would be administration only. Of course, each plan does have a public side portion to it, but I would not think that this is necessarily a section of it.
I can read the plan that we've got there. But my question was we had that order, if they're going to be on playing fields and they can't be around each other, we're going to try to put them back in a classroom together on the 11th. And his was till the 29th of August. And are we going back in green?
I didn't hear the question very well, Ron. Can you say it again? Yeah, we're in the green right now. Yes, sir. We're in the green.
And that's from statistical evidence that we're not on our cases?
In the health department that we received, the data we received from the health department, we are in the green currently.
This is just a plan.
Correct. And
I'll second the motion.
motion made by Mr. Johnny, seconded by Mr. Fan, that the County Board of Education review the continuous learning plan uploaded to the State Department, the Tennessee Department of Education. Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels.
Aye.
Mr. Elrod.
I'm still probably not understanding a whole lot of that on that plan, especially about those orders that have been given. I'm not real comfortable with it. I'll say aye and hope that it'll evolve and change.
Mr. Sanders.
I'm with Mr. Elrod, I'm still not clear, but let me ask my question. Just long as I understand you right, that this continuous learning plan that we're talking about is an electronic document, and then when we get to this and have some more discussion, they'll come together, two different things.
We must submit the continuous learning plan to the state.
Right. Right.
These are state, okay? But this is more of the, what is going on, the county of the board of education. So we're, if I understand, we're still on number 3 on the agenda, we're on page number 4 yet.
So, because this won't be a surprise, I have tons of questions, but it sounds like the questions will be answered as we go through this. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. There's a lot to that right there. I don't know.
Well, and I know we discussed before, these levels could change too, depending upon what the report is from the Department of Health also.
Correct.
So keep that in mind.
It's very,
So this,
it's very similar going to the district improvement plan that we do. You don't vote on the district improvement plan because that's an administrative thing. This is the same thing here. This is an administrative thing, and then you have full access to the whole part of that plan. It just says this is what we're doing as of this moment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then I'll vote aye.
Mr. Turner. Chairman Payne. Mr. Chairman, 5 ayes, no nays.
Item number 4, approve the reopening plan for county schools. This will take longer than 10 minutes.
Let's try that. You know, I ain't gonna vote.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this plan is the result of multiple hours of work by the task force. And the task force, we had community members, administrators, our local EMA director, and Mr. Sullivan is here, has been involved in that. The EMS director, Susan, was involved. Local officials were involved. I mean, this is a plan that has been worked on for literally hours and hours and hours. And let me say that we're entering a time that, and I use the word unprecedented, that's what it is. This is unprecedented. We've never had a reopening like this before. It really gets us into some interesting times, and I use that word deliberately. This has been an interesting process, but as we get closer and closer to the August date, parents are needing answers, or wanting answers, and it's our job to give them the answers. And this is the best that we have today, as of this moment. I keep using that term, as of this moment. This has been a fluid situation all the way since March the 13th, when our spring break was interrupted. So this is what we're doing. Again, I would like to look at the first page of this, the very first cover. We have developed this plan to assist in the navigation of the reestablishing of reopening our schools. This plan has been developed for our employees, students, and families to feel safe and to reduce the impact of COVID-19 upon return to school. Guidelines referenced in this document are based upon the guidance from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the Tennessee Department of Health for applicable federal, state, and local agencies. As of July 23rd, 2020, the plan is subject to change. And then we will, whatever you approve tonight from this, we will put approved by the County Board of Education on this date, on the very first part this plan. It's what we'll do before we disseminate to the general public. When we're ready to go, as you approve this plan, we're ready to go and get it on the website in the morning, so that we're still in, we'll put this thing on, and it will be disseminated to as many outlets as we could possibly disseminate it to. Page 2, any questions on page 1 with the disclaimer? Okay, page 2, components of the plan. Section 1, health and safety. Section 2, attendance. Section 3, transportation. Section 4, academics. Section 5, technology. Section 6, communications. And then the appendix. In the appendix, you have the Candy Schools reopening framework. That's the green chart that we put out last week. That was the green, yellow, and red chart. Secondly, the staff screen, I think we got to turn around there, the staff screen flow chart for the infrastructure, that's what you approved a few months ago. Section C is the metrics for school closures. D is Cannon County school calendar for 2020-2021, and E is the Cannon County assessment calendar 2020-2021. Next page is a forward from myself. And what this does is just kind of try to answer some questions. I won't read that, but I will tell you that we look at the reopening process. We've conducted in-person meetings with several stakeholder groups during the reopening process. And our reopening task force consists of district administrators, principals, school board members, and local Cannon Board of Education president. Many local officials, including representatives from the health department, and the local Cannon County Health Department, Cannon County EMA, law enforcement, Cannon County community healthcare providers, and community members. We were continuously consulting with Tennessee Department of Education, fellow upper Cumberland school systems, other school systems in Tennessee, as well as local officials in Cannon County as we plan for the reopening of our schools. Talk about the ongoing mission. Again, I ask parents to please keep in touch with the child's principal, the teacher, the principal, and myself if needed. And so there is the letter from myself. Now you go to section 1 in health and safety. So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go page by page, or how do you want me to disseminate this, we go page by page and move right along.
I think we should have.
We go ahead and proceed page by page. We shall do so. Ms. Patterson, I ask that you come to the front, and you were the health and safety chairperson for the section. In that process of our mission and vision was this, and that was to provide a safe and supportive learning environment. And so this is what we do first, safety. So as you read down through that, the Cannon County School System for the Reopening of Schools Committee, consisting of subcommittees to develop protocols to ensure the safe reopening of schools. And again, this plan was developed in collaboration with local government entities, the Tennessee Department of Education, Tennessee Department of Health, and private healthcare professionals. Regular updates will be made to this plan based on the information provided by the CDC, Tennessee Department of Health, and applicable federal, state, and local agencies. So, here we go. Ms. Patterson, your committee met multiple times, and what you see in front of you is the current guidelines, and again, as of this moment, the current guidelines from the CDC and Tennessee Department of Health. So, Ms. Patterson, I want to turn to you in regarding the safety of students, staff, and visitors. Mr. Chairman, would you like to give Ms. Patterson instructions?
These are documents, all of the recommendations for student and safety measures. Those are the questions that we received from CDC guidance and the Department of Health. They also came to us from the Tennessee Department of Education. The committee met or looked at all of those documents, and their recommendation was to use the words, the actual words from those documents, because they were coming from the profession. page, the big M word, which is, I even hate to say it, but we're not here for opinions. We're here to try to keep kids safe. We, as a committee, agreed for masks to be optional for students and staff on campus, but strongly recommended. That's the language from the Department of Education, strongly recommended. Any mask that's worn must follow dress codes, and then it gets into the different types of masks that we would not want anyone to wear that has something to do with profanity or anything that we consider not appropriate through our dress code. On page 4, we came to an agreement for masks to be required on for any student riding a morning bus route until proper screening is completed upon arrival at school. That recommendation came, and Ms. Lisa can talk more with that, from the Department of Transportation and state troopers, because there's no way that a bus driver can stop and take a temperature before a child gets on the bus. It's too dangerous, and we do not have bus aids. And so to protect the bus driver and to protect the other students that are on that bus, that our buses hold, Ms. Lisa, how many students? 72 students. We don't know if we'll have 72 students. According to our survey, we're not going to have as many bus riders, according to the survey. However, it's still not meeting CDC guidelines for social distancing without any students. So the masks are the more appropriate thing to do to prevent the spread. For visitors on campus, due to safety and health considerations, we will monitor visitors on campuses. Visitors will be required to answer COVID screening questions, and appointments are strongly encouraged. We love our families, we want our parents in our buildings, but due to the pandemic, we have to be very, very careful about coming into our buildings to protect our children and staff. I will tell you that Raptor that we use to screen our visitors has the COVID questions, and we will be taking those as well. And we're working on providing plexiglass for our secretaries in those areas. School protocols, breakfast and lunchtime will be restructured to allow children to eat in their classroom, outdoor spaces, or small groups in the cafeteria. Our principals are going to work on this so that our staff gets breaks. We don't want teachers to never have a break from their students. It's hard work. It's even harder work during this pandemic. So principals have their discretion on how that's going to look, working with Ms. Jennifer, who's the food service director. Because in a cafeteria such as Blueberry Grammar, you could have 250 students at one time in the cafeteria. Students and staff should be reminded to wash their hands for 20 seconds or use hand sanitizer before and after eating, and practice good personal hygiene throughout the day. Social distancing is strongly recommended as an effective means of preventing potential infection. All students, staff, and visitors are encouraged to maintain 6 feet away from others and eliminate contact with others when possible. Schools will be limiting mass gatherings unless appropriate social distancing can be maintained. Classroom and schedules will be structured in such a way as to facilitate social distancing to the extent possible. And student pickup and drop off plans will be developed by each individual school. That was very important for the committee. They wanted the school principals of the schools to be able to determine what they needed to do to keep their kids safe, each individual school. For sanitation, hand sanitizer will be available at each school. Training will be provided to all custodians and staff on proper cleaning techniques. take place within the next week. Employees are encouraged to disinfect their own personal workspace and classrooms. Principals will develop schedules and protocols for high-touch services. Water bottle refill stations will be placed at all schools. Those have been purchased, and we've already received, I believe, 2. Ms. Jennifer? Students will need to bring water bottles to school until the installation is complete, but we think we'll have, we hope to have those completed before school starts. But students will need to bring water bottles, and we will try to secure water bottles for students that do not have those. Schools will also provide additional sources of water. Protocol for sick children and staff. While we all hope to avoid exposure to illness related to COVID-19, we need to be prepared for.
Riding the morning bus routes will be required to wear a mask.
Yes.
Okay. What's gonna be our protocol or procedure for enforcing that, for lack of better words? It's like, I'm hoping maybe you've heard some of the same feedback that I have from the drivers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's our understanding that if a child refuses to wear it, the driver's gonna take their name, he's gonna contact the principal, and they're going to be ready to go till they comply.
What about the evening route?
So they'll be at school all day and have been tested, so they will recover. It was only for the morning, since there was no way that we could test children. And we hope that parents will, there is a section here that parents, can ask those questions before they put their children on the bus. And we know that most do, but we also know that every now and then someone, might get on the bus and may not have had that screening. So we want to protect all children, and that's the only way that we can do it safely.
So we're not gonna be asking the bus drivers, like, we're not gonna give them a stack of masks and say, hand these out to your kids.
Yes.
We are.
We're gonna have them on the bus and say, if they don't have one, we're gonna say, take the mask and put it on.
I'm just gonna be honest, I've heard from several bus drivers and they don't want to do that. I guess, do they know that may be asked of them,
We
or?
had a meeting last Monday, and they
Okay.
know they have to.
Okay. Well, I haven't talked to anybody since then, so that works.
I'll be honest, we struggled with this, but that was the only safe thing that we knew that we could do to protect the other children on the bus.
And please, I'm not being critical, I'm just asking the questions and giving the feedback.
I understand.
This has been one of my main concerns is, there are students that depend on the transportation, and I don't know what this is gonna look like, but I was hopeful that had the feedback, and so I'm told that we can do the best we can. Thank you.
But as we go along, as this pandemic is getting longer and longer, a lot of the focus on that is requiring them, because a lot of these places are gonna start requiring them, so I will get used to it. But I understand where you're coming from on that.
I think Mr. McMahon said this year. All right, under the protocol, you can read, it just asks that parents, what we just said, that we ask parents to check for those symptoms before they send their children to school. If they do have any symptoms and they have any questions, we included the Canyon County Health Department number or their medical provider for guidelines regarding testing or further recommendations. Students exposed to a person who has tested positive for COVID-19 should stay home for a minimum of 10 days and at least 24 hours have passed with no fever, without the use of fever-reducing medications, and symptoms have improved. That's the new guidelines that was changed yesterday. It was 72 hours, and now it's just changed to 24 hours, fever-free, without medication. Symptoms that occur after arrival to school, The school nurse or designee will assess symptoms if needed, call to have the student picked up from school. Students who are present with fever, coughing, upper respiratory symptoms, new loss of taste and or smell, sore throat, diarrhea, and or vomiting will be required to wear a face mask until picked up from school. Such students will be kept isolated from other students and staff, but will still be monitored. Each school will designate an area for students and or staff for this purpose. Students should be picked up within 30 minutes from the time of the call by the school nurse. We already have protocol in place for sick children. We do that every day. The only thing that's different here is that we're going to have an isolation room that's different than the school clinic. Because we're still gonna have kids that get hurt at school, get bumps, those types of things on the playground, and they still have to visit the school nurse. So we don't want to contaminate that area. And every principal that has been to these committee meetings, and I believe every principal was there, has agreed to find that place in their school building. Any questions on that? The return of students sent home, this is just the CDC guidelines of anyone who tests positive for COVID. The healthcare provider confirmed that the individual's illness is not due to COVID-19 because another explanation was identified. Either fever due to urinary tract infection, strep throat confirmed by a positive strep test, rash from poison ivy, etc. Diagnosis of an upper respiratory tract infection, pneumonia, viral illness do not exclude the diagnosis of COVID-19 and should not be considered adequate to authorize a return to school. We had a nurse practitioner on our committee, and this was just guidance that had been handed down through CDC and the Health Department. So what that would mean is if the student had fever or was going up and we sent them home, we have to treat that as like it's COVID at that moment. If they go to the doctor and they get a note from the doctor saying they had a stomach bug, then they can come back and not have to stay out the recommended 10 days. The individual had a positive COVID-19 molecular PCR test and completed isolation for a minimum of 10 days, and at least 24 hours have passed with no fever without the use of fever-reducing medications, and symptoms have improved. In the case of an individual with symptoms who did not obtain testing, the individual must complete isolation for a minimum of 10 days, and at least 24 hours have passed since last fever without the use of fever-reducing medication. Students who have been sent home from the school nurse designee must be reassessed by the nurse or the designee upon return to school. Students who have not remained home for the required period will be sent home until the recommended time has been met. Contact your building administrator for more information concerning how absences and schoolwork will be handled. If a student has COVID and they have to go home for 10 days, we will put them on remote learning and they will not be counted absent. They will be coded D for distance learning. They will be counted present. The state has created a new code because there's a lot of children that's going to be out during the year. Okay, staff health protocol. I think we went over this when we went over the staff section. It mirrors the student. We just kept the same language.
Mike, can I ask a quick question for you? If they test positive for flu, are you saying they'll fall into that 10 days?
No. If they test positive for the flu and they're fever-free for 24 hours, they'll be able to come back. Just like we did with the flu usually.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, any other questions? Thanks, Ms. Patterson. Just for a second on section 1, health and safety.
It says So each employee has 14 calendar days per school year to utilize for COVID-19.
That's the FFCRA that we passed at the last, after meeting.
That's
federal.
federal.
That's federal, FFCRA.
I didn't make that one. I didn't make it, so I'm just going to know.
That's correct, as long as they can say that
Yes.
this is what they're out for. Yes,
That's
sir.
positive COVID.
Correct, correct.
And those posters will be in every school, so staff will know. And that's Department of Labor law that you have to have.
The FFCRA, that's been a game changer, for a lot of business, a lot of things. But that's the family community, dealing with just the COVID response.
So you, any more questions?
This is,
I'm sorry. You can go ahead, sir.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say, so this is 14 additional days for our employees. Is that what I'm understanding? Sorry, on page 7, each employee has 14 calendar days per school year.
Yes, and I don't do HR, Nathan, so that would really have to go to Shannon, the, question on employee rights. I just pulled their documents for employees, because I thought it was just important that our employees had that in this handbook. Even though this is a student parent handbook, it's also an employee handbook too, so they know what to do. And I think it's important that they know their rights coming into this. Or the committee, I keep saying I, it's not I. It's like a lot of people that were on this committee.
I do have a question. I too. For the drop off, how will that work? 'Cause like I have to be at work, so.
Each individual school, will handle that, and I will tell everyone, and this is just from my experience as being a principal and being out here doing drop off.
Yeah.
It's gonna look ugly probably the first day or two. Y'all know anything that's new, it's just gonna be a hot mess, and we're gonna get through it. And the more we do it, it's like meal distribution. You know those first days on meal distribution, all of y'all that's worked it? It was crazy. And then we got so good at it. We got so good at it, and we're gonna get good at this.
So will it still be the 7 o'clock drop off available?
You would need to talk to your principal, but if they open at 7, we'll open at 7. It
Okay.
just may be a little slower at first, because we're having to stop, kids with the thermal thermometers. Yeah.
And then as far as like the sickness, if they get sent home, they go to the doctor and they can't really find out what's wrong. Do they have to get the COVID test or could they just wait?
We cannot mandate someone to get a COVID test, no. They just go to the doctor, they get enough, doctor says they're good to come back, and they're fever free, we'll take them back.
All right, thank you.
Any additional questions for section 1?
Unless something changes overnight.
I'm sorry.
So, I think I heard you address this just a minute ago, but as far as like faculty and teachers, this wouldn't be the time to ask a question about that right now. Or it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
What's going everybody? Somebody?
Go ahead. I'll talk about kids, you can talk about
Okay,
kids.
all right, so, if a teacher is exposed and they have to be quarantined, I read somewhere like we're covered under 80 hours, which I guess would be 2 weeks. So my question is, if we're exposed more than once, and I have to take off more time, does that come out of my own sick days, or how does that work? Because I'm putting myself out there over and over again.
It's in that federal document, and he has it, and he will give it to every employee.
And we'll have that, and we know, Julie, that's gonna happen, we do know that. And we're flexible, we're working with the CCEA on that too, and that's gonna be very, very flexible, but we'll get you that.
All right,
It spells it out.
okay.
I could even understand it.
Okay, good.
The
Good.
federal document is
I
very,
teach first grade, so I need a first grade.
It does.
There we go, Julie,
There's
okay.
We supervise those at work too, so I understand that. We take it off our too, so.
You're critical infrastructure, Julie, that's a good thing. You're critical, you're a critical infrastructure.
All right, does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Curtis,
Yes, sir, Mr. Daniel.
did I understand you a while ago clearly that this is the best plan we have at the present?
Yes, sir, at this moment, this is what the best thing that we have for right now in the state of Tennessee, and we've been very deliberate in this process. And others have really took some heat across the state. Other boards have really took the heat about some things, but you're having to make some local decisions based upon the guidelines that you have, Mr. Daniel. So this is the best that we have to offer right now, utilizing CDC and the Tennessee Department of Health guidelines. Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Bonnie,
Yes, sir.
this is the best we got at the present.
This is what's been given to us by the Department of Health and the Department of CDC, which has epidemiologists that have created these documents. I would think they would have the knowledge to give us guidance.
Okay, I'm ready.
Question?
Yes, I have a question about, if a teacher does get diagnosed with COVID-19, is there going to be contact tracing within the school? So does her class go home also, or if a student in class has it? Because the CDC has recommended contact tracing, I'm just wondering.
The CDC recommends contact tracing, but the health department does contact tracing. We will do, if we are notified, if you notify us, we can't ask, that's HIPAA. But if you notify us and tell us, yes, we will notify others within that close contact.
And so then those students have to be quarantined also, or is it just a case?
It's a case-by-case basis on contact. Remember, less than 6 feet for more than 10 to 15 minutes. So it may not be a whole classroom. It just depends. It depends on the situation. So we'll follow the Department of Health guidelines. They do the contact tracing. But if we know, I mean, we're going to contact and we're going to let the parents know. We're not going to, keep that information from anyone. But, if somebody tells us, there's a lot of that going on where people don't tell, So if we know, we'll contact parents. We're going to develop a letter. We're going to develop all those things. But my nurses are going to do that because, they're going to be on the front lines, and they need to be the ones that develop those types of things. So right now, this is what we've got so far, and there'll be additional documents that will come.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, Ms. Patterson, for example, if I go into, we'll use the first one I see, if I go into her classroom and she's got 4 seated in a classroom together, and one of those 4 is tested positive for COVID-19, it could be that just those 4 are quarantined for 14 days, not the other 20.
Yes, if you read all the State Department guidance, all the scenarios that they've given, even the Academy of Pediatrics says that you may not, they even have a flow chart, the Department of Health does. You may not have to quarantine a whole classroom, but you may have to because, little kids, we all know first graders and second graders and kindergartners, they are all over everybody. So if we have to contact everyone and close the classroom, we will.
I know you said we can't mandate a test, I understand that. Now, are our nurses gonna have the testing kits?
No.
No.
Department of Health or their medical provider. We're not a clinic. We can't do that.
So the same for faculty.
They have to go to their Department of Health, which is free testing, or their medical provider.
Anything else on section 1? Sure.
Looking through everything, we're not talking about a phase in at all. We're talking about going full blown.
I don't know. This document is just created if we do come back to school in person. It's health and safety. The health and safety part is just if we're in this building.
Ready? Next week, I heard, I think it's Tuesday, right? The governor's gonna come out. with-
Thursday, the 28th. The 28th, the governor and the commissioner of ed will be making some sort of announcement. We've been acting upon announcements ever since March the 13th.
Well, I asked that.
We have not heard anything at all, except I have heard.
Wait a minute, I'm asking if he makes guidelines different from what you got, are you?
Then we'll have to go back and change these documents, yes, sir. That's what we're afraid of, because we make a document, and then we turn right around and half an hour later, or, we get another email that, sir, here comes another deal from the State Department of Education, or the Department of Health, or the CDC, or this has been a real task, I'll tell you that. But we've been, like I said, very deliberate, but this is where we have on this moment, right as in this moment. So yes, that could change, that could be a game changer, but now we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the academic part.
Okay, attendance, this is for your hybrid and remote learning, or what we call our distance learners. We modeled this to our own attendance policy. I felt like it was important that we are doing the same thing with attendance for our distance learners and for the ones that are traditional students. We don't want two different models. I won't read the first part. It just says that we expect students to be present each day school is in session. Under the hybrid and remote learning models, all students are expected to participate in both synchronous and asynchronous instruction at times assigned by the student's teacher. The instruction may include independent work, teacher-assigned individual or group projects, audio or video recorded lessons, online class modules, or other appropriate methods as determined by the school and or teacher. And we'll get into that when we get to academics. Teachers will grade and provide feedback to students for both face-to-face instruction and remote learning opportunities. Teachers will enter grades into Skyward, where families and students can log into for grades. Teachers will take daily attendance and provide individual feedback to students at least twice weekly through Google Classroom, phone conversations, emails, and or virtual learning. Under the next part, daily attendance will be based on meaningful student engagement and interaction. Tennessee Board of Education Rule 0520-01-1701 requires student attendance to be reported daily when students are participating in remote instruction. Canyon County School Board's Policy 1.801 requires students to participate a minimum of 7 hours total for all grades. Canyon County Schools will consider students who are interacting and responding to remote instruction as in attendance. This may include, but is not limited to, any of the following: student submission of an assignment, student completion of an online assignment, student participation in synchronous learning in online classroom, student submittal of work by hard copy or virtual formats, student initiated phone call, email, or other digital communication, or responses to teacher email and or other evidence of participation as determined by the principal or designee. Attendance is not based on solely assignment completion. Teachers will be responsible for monitoring student participation in remote learning and reporting attendance to principals daily. Any questions on that? In other words, students don't have to be on the computer 7 straight hours a day. There's other ways to gauge it. Now, that's been a lot of controversy, a lot of questions, especially for families that have, let's say, 4 kids and 1 computer. How are they going to do it? There's ways we can work around that. Procedures for staff coding of attendance. The new 2021 attendance code, D, distance learning, will be used for positive attendance reporting to track students that actively participate in instructional distance learning. Anytime distance learning is used to provide instruction, it should be considered a positive attendance code on the student's attendance record. Students that are physically in the building during the school day would continue to report attendance as appropriate. Students that are participating in virtual learning will take ownership of their attendance by logging into the approved Google format each morning by 7:45 a.m. It is recommended to start logging in at least 5 to 10 minutes before 7:45 a.m. in case technical issues arise. Students will follow the schedule set by their teacher. Teachers will record attendance for virtual learners by 9:15 a.m. That's what we do for all students. They have to have the attendance in by 9:15 a.m. In the event that a child is absent on a school day, when he or she is expected to participate, the school should report the day absent as excused or unexcused, just as they would for a regular absence. Because the D attendance code is used for tracking positive attendance, it will not be included in the chronic absenteeism rate. Excused and unexcused absences. This is just board policy for excused and unexcused. So if you want me to read it, I will, but you've already approved that policy. It's the same policy. Parents must submit documentation of an absence within 3 days. After this time, notes will not be accepted. Written excuses can be submitted by fax, email, or in person to a designated school authority. And a maximum of 5 parent notes will be accepted each year. Remember, if a student has been sent home with COVID, this has nothing to do with distance learning. That the student has been sent home in quarantine with COVID, they are not using parent notes for that. They're on distance learning. All right? Interventions. All students on either hybrid or remote learning will have access to health child supports and interventions, counselors, nurses, etc., as needed. Canyon County Schools will utilize the Canyon County Attendance Tier Intervention Plan to address absences and assess problems that may be deterring a student from attending school. Students will enter the tiers after the 3rd unexcused absence. Parents will be contacted by email, phone, or in person to identify issues that may be preventing student attendance and access to learning. Additional tiers will be used to address further excused absences to improve school student attendance. All attendance meetings and or contracts with students can be made remotely or in person, and these are the same interventions that we do for regular attendance. So the question is, if a student is not doing their work on distance learning, and they're not logging in, they're considered unexcused absence. Then after 10 unexcused absences, they can go to truancy board, just like any other student. This isn't like it was in March, you know, when we started, and it was, if you want to do it, you do it, if you don't, you don't. That's not the way it is now.
I have a question about the distance learning. If like we don't have a computer that they can log on to, if we have to do the distance learning, how are they going to be able to attend that to log on if we don't have a computer?
I think we'll get to that when we get to,
We will get to academics, yeah.
Okay.
Transportation. Bus drivers will follow COVID screening protocols prior to beginning routes. Masks are required for any students riding morning routes until proper screening is completed upon arrival at school. Field trips. Canyon County Schools will not permit field trips until further notice. And athletes will follow TSSA guidelines and recommendations.
Any questions for Ms. Patterson on section 1, 2, or 3?
So on the transportation piece of it, we're not even gonna try to get them to sit 6 feet apart.
Just like, if you turn the light, please. Over the map system.
We're not even gonna try to sit.
But probably not. What we're gonna try to do is load our students go to the back and load to the front. Once they get to school, a staff member will come out and take their temperature, but when they get off the bus, if the child is sick, and they will be isolated from the other, have a temperature listed, which is 100.4 or higher. Then they'll go into the building. The bus driver then will come into the building, and we're ordering misters, like backpack misters and these mister things, and they will spray the bus. And after about 10 minutes, that bus is completely sanitized and good to go. The driver will spray, return the mister back in the building for school use if they need it, and go on home. In the afternoon, driver takes their temperature at home again and documents it. That has to be turned in with their time sheets. Go get the children. It's not been anybody's been on it, so it's still clean. Pick up the children and take them home. Return to the school and use the mister or use Lysol wipes once they get home and leave the bus. Windows will be left down on the bus.
So we're providing the, what you call them?
A mister. No, it's called a mister. Yeah. Yes, that cleans the whole entire bus. If we do it personally, it can take up to 45 minutes, and this thing takes about 3 to 7 minutes. It does windows and
and then, what did you say about the afternoon round? They'll need to come to school.
they can come back to the school and remist or go home and play. And they have to check off that they did every day.
Again, this may be a case by case thing. If a student has been diagnosed with COVID, and whether it's contact tracing or not, but we know they ride, bus 1, 2, 3, are we're gonna be shutting that bus down?
No, because it would have been clean, it'll be okay.
So that satisfies.
Right, and depending on what we find out, if the parent notifies the school, and some will, Mr. Curtis will address that, and if we don't.
But this sounds like this mixture is just really got strong chemicals in it.
We hope so.
And that's good. I have not heard anything about that. So
Oh, there's
that's
lots of
encouraging.
big products.
That's very encouraging.
Same thing we use on airlines.
Yes, yes, same thing they're using on airlines and buses, trolleys, hospitals are using.
And then you talk about the windows being down. Is that gonna be morning rounds and afternoon rounds?
Oh, we always put them in there.
Well.
Especially in the office. But yes, as much as possible. I mean, if it's pouring down rain, do that.
At what temperature have the statement of temperature on, at what temperature will the windows have to be?
You just unless it's pouring down rain.
This is still going on in October, November. We can't let it get right on the high school bus.
This is the best we can do, right?
Well, I understand that. I didn't know if the state or.
No, they don't give any guidelines. They're saying follow the CDC guidelines.
We're trying to get to October during, so. Hopefully we do that. We're hoping we do that.
Oh, it's gonna be gone.
I do emphasize too, members of the board, that field trips will not be permitted until further notice. Teachers know that, they will be emphasized that. I apologize for that in advance. But until this thing dissipates, there's not gonna probably be any venues to go to anyway, so. But no field trips until further notice. Mr. Chairman, you want to make a motion?
I was just wondering, with the sports coming up, and a lot of times in the past they road bus, did you think that's still gonna be in place, or we won't use it?
Currently, TWSFA has not released any guidelines of whether we can compete in such.
Those new guidelines that came out.
And they released again?
Yeah, they placed on 8 games.
Yeah, the TWSFA just brought out those new guidelines yesterday. So our athletic director is looking at those right now, as well as the high school looking at that. So we're gonna have some more emphasis on that. But buses to what they're saying, what I envision there, Mr. Mackins, is that what we will do, we will miss before they get on, miss after they leave, et cetera, the same kind of protocols that we do in those athletic trips.
Yes, and that was in spring before they left. But the mister is, some of them are handheld and some of them are backpacks, so they're easy to carry and port.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and develop, as we continue, we'll go ahead and develop guidelines for that. If those athletic events are, or we will be providing best transportation. And Julie, I'm sorry.
I'm not really about buses, I was gonna kind of piggyback on what Mr. McMackins was saying about sports, and I know you said follow the TWSFA guidelines. And I think you kind of already a little bit answered this, but I was just wondering, like, with our elementary school basketball season, are we planning to go forward as normal as of right now? Are we waiting?
We will analyze that at a later point, probably the day by the next board meeting, we'll have some more guidance on that. And we'll see what happens there, but TWSFA is not allowed for high school basketball or contact sports. We will follow TWSFA guidelines even with our elementary program. Some more details to come.
Well, it starts, I mean, you know, the girls.
That's right, we start very soon. That's right, we do.
I just need to know if my girls need to practice or what I need to do.
More details to follow.
I'm sure you did, Ms. Black, but did you talk to the drivers about this,
Yes, sir.
disinfectant?
First of all, we did have a meeting with our drivers Monday.
That could be a lot easier, exactly what's going to be, and leaving over X amount of seats, Clorox wise.
That's
This
all.
is going to be, they're going to like this. I certainly have seen a lot of demos.
Yeah, it's really super. You can filter later on, see that mister clean bucks, and it's pretty heavy.
And hopefully we can buy more as funds become available.
We're gonna try to buy
We're gonna see if we can buy more.
and one for second.
You wouldn't have to say anything. There's no gray area. Somehow.
Any other questions for Ms. Black in section 3 transportation? Okay, members of the board, if I can, Mr. Chairman. If you, I've been sending putting your packet in your digital packet, our Can Skills Task Reopening Task Force PowerPoint that Ms. Patterson put together. It's very informative, and in fact, you can probably see that, Brian, if you can get that up there for me on that. And before we get into academics, if I can go into that PowerPoint just briefly, I know you can't already see from our angle that we have here, but we'll look at that, and we've made that available, and it will be on our website also, so parents can see this. All right, if you look at the first slide, second slide there, please, Brian, thank you, sir, that you'll pop up there. And this is the current COVID-19 cases as of July 23rd. You can see the map of Tennessee. But what Ms. Patterson did, and I appreciate her doing this, as far as she touched on every time she got in her sleep. But what you look at there, I love the week comparisons. Week of July 6th, we were at, you look at that, Cannon County was at 25, and hey, things were going pretty good in Cannon County. Then look what happened in week of the July 13th. We go to 41 cases. And then, on the week of July 21st, our latest data, for yesterday was 87 cases, I've been told, and this person is with me for a second, but, until now it is above 9. So, you can see the trend that we have here in Cannon County. But if you look at the surrounding counties, if you look at our neighbor to the west, I don't want to compare us to Rutherford too much, but they down from 2,000 cases, and I was informed today that there are over 6,000 cases in Rutherford County. So for us to have 87 cases, Roy probably can relate even more on the ELA side. We see things going up and continue to go up in Cannon County, because it could be a whole lot worse than. And we look at our neighbors and see what those numbers. Stated a few moments ago, we now have 2 options. We have a distance learning option, and we also have a on-campus option. Now, we're already starting our registration process. It is open It was open. We've got to do just a little bit more work on the website in the morning, but other than that, it is wide open. Ms. Black is, I think, Melissa, if you come back to the mic just for a second. Ms. King, I don't know, I think she said she was gonna be on the Zoom, I don't know if Karen's on there, but we had some good response today at Westside. In response to that, each of you got a text from Ms. King and what went on the Westside today about our online registration. So what we're doing, we're contacting, so Lisa, why don't you go ahead and talk about our online registration platform that's ready to go, either distance learning or traditional learning, on campus learning is what I like to call it. Ms. White.
Okay, so we have 2 online choices. If you're a brand new student to Camden County, you can go online and register. Then you'll be given a login and a password, or you can go into Skyward and enroll your child online. If you're a returning student to Camden County, you just click into the login. If you don't know your login and password, you can contact the school or myself, and we'll give you the login and password. And I'm about 45 calls behind. So if there's people out there, just hang on, I'm gonna call you tomorrow.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Today at Westside, we took the roll and we called all the students and asked, are you coming back to us in August? Planning on coming back in August? And if they were yes, we asked them to re-register online, and we gave them their login and password. If they said no, if they were considering distance learning, we offered them our distance learning program and asked them whether to go online and complete that form. If they didn't have a computer, we're mailing that form to them. And we're gonna do that at each and every school next week. We're gonna touch base with all of those, and then on the 6th and 7th of August, we'll be at the high school doing the one-stop shop. We're gonna have those students.
So we're being very proactive in getting in touch with our parents, and now when I get to the communication, that's the last one, so I'll be limited there, because hopefully we communicate with that. But we are working very hard to make sure that parents know these are our options. We just wait through, because this document will be the forefront, that'll be on the website right there also. So that'll be put on, so if we adopt this, then we turn right around and I'll put this on there first thing. It'll be available for all to be on there. If we're ready to go to academics, but any questions in regarding to PowerPoints and where we're headed to on the academic side? Brian, if I could ask you then, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you would, Brian, if you would unmute Dr. Melton. Marsha Melton should be online, and she will be ready to talk about the academic side. Now, if you look at the academics, the Camden County instructional day for K-12, you can see in red. Blended learning in person or distance, Camden County instructional day is 7 hours. Whether it's blended learning or it's distance learning, it is 7 hours per day, just like you're in the regular class. Now, what is that going to look like? The RTI will be included in the expanded learning, flexible time expectation for T1, T2, that's the tier 1, tier 3, and special education needs. Family and teacher connections with teachers, including daily attendance checks. Teachers will post available communication modes and times on their websites, and most teachers have phones in their classrooms, or will be receiving them very, very soon. So we will have phones in every classroom in Camden County here very, very soon. We'll talk about that on the technology side. So, Mr. Dr. Melton, are you on?
I am on, thank you.
Okay, you might want to speak up just a little bit. Brian's going to help us out a little bit, but you speak up just a little bit more than everybody.
We have somebody in the background who isn't muted. I was just texting Brian to ask him if he could manually mute that person, but I didn't get finished before he called on me.
That is Marsha. That is not somebody. All right,
No, that's not me with all that noise. My puppies are over here quiet as a mouse.
Okay, I think I found it.
okay, I think Brian has found the noise, so you should be better.
Great. Well, thank you for going over the part in the red. As Bonnie, Mrs. Patterson said earlier, this is going to look different even for our distance learning students. If we had to pivot quickly or if something happens that we don't get to start the school year on time, but you know, this is not what we had in the spring. We have to reiterate that, as you said, 7 hours a day, 180 school days that we're by law required to go to school. So in the first part of the academic section is just the minimum expectations for grade level and content areas as required by Tennessee state law. So I just put that in there so that you could see what the minimum are, whether we're face-to-face, whether we're distance learning. And then just below that, teachers are used to seeing this. These are not exact schedules. Every school, every classroom in Cannon County is not going to look exactly like these samples. It's going to vary, but these were some samples drawn off the very things that we were doing in Cannon County. And we're going to be the same whether we're distance learning or whether we're face-to-face. But notice we've rolled in all the content areas plus our tier interventions, special ed, rotations, and all. That will look different in just a little bit. We'll talk about special ed. That IEP will be honored, and even with our students with distant learning, we'll be checking in with them to see how to best meet their needs. So that's divided into K-5 classrooms because those look a little bit different, middle grades, and then high school. In that high school schedule, Mr. Nichols shared with me the exact bell schedule for the class times. So this year that you'll notice in the third time slot, right between class period 2 and 3, there's an instructional focus time. That's when we'll be doing remediation and enrichment. That would be the same as those tier 2 and maybe some of the tier 3 rotations at that time. Not only that, as part of the CARES Act, we are purchasing an online curriculum supplement program called IXL that students will be able to access in face-to-face classrooms and distance learning. That does not take the place of any of this learning or of our adopted curriculum, and I'll go through that in just a moment. As also part of the CLP that we had to do, there had to be an academic counseling guidelines. There's really nothing different in this guideline section that we're not already doing. It's just knowing that in writing, we're saying that our counselors are going to be there to help our parents when they need it, both in person and virtually. Also, we are part of the Health Connect network that provides us a counselor to help when students need that. We also have some administrative positions other than just Mr. Nichols and Ms. Barker that also help with not guidance necessarily, but helping students knowing who needs credit recovery, who's on track for graduation and who's not. So we have a whole team approach there at the high school and also getting them ready for ACT. So when we look back down at instructional materials, grading, and feedback, once again, we had to be explicit here because that looks a little different than it did, not a little different, it's a whole lot different than it did in the springtime. We have adopted curriculum. We just purchased a brand new ELA curriculum. We were very thoughtful in the process of picking that out, what kind of curriculum could pivot, but was also the best curriculum that we could have face-to-face or if we had to do distance learning. So teachers have already started having some PLC work. They're meeting next week for some more training on our new ELA curriculum, and we'll be making pacing guides. Luckily for us, some of our partner surrounding counties have used the same curriculum that we're going to implement this year, and they are helping us by letting us use their pacing guides so that we can sort of see how it's working for other school districts, but then personalize it for the Cannon County School District. So right there, then you will just see that a list of all of our curriculum that we're using in each of our grade levels. That is the expected curriculum in the classroom. Teachers will, Mrs. Patterson spoke to this, teachers are going to go ahead and grade work. They're going to provide the feedback to students. They'll also, as part of what Ms. Black is doing, getting parents logged into Skyward to do registration. Now they'll have their login information where they can go right in there and check for grades when teachers post them in there. Bonnie already, Mrs. Patterson already covered taking the attendance wherever we're at. We're going to have technology coaches helping our teachers set up Google Classrooms, working on phone conversations, emails, and virtual meetings like we did in the springtime too, with the expectation that if a student is doing all distance learning, somebody is checking, the teacher is checking with that student a minimum of twice a week. So the next section in there is that learning loss and remediation with those instructional gaps in special ed. Once again, this is all work we've always done. We look at the data we have. We know that the TCAP didn't happen last year. That does not mean we don't have data on students. We did take a winter benchmark with Ames Web. We have data coaches at each of our schools that will continue working with the data that they already have. Most of those curriculum that we just talked about have some kind of a diagnostic assessment included with them. And also the Tennessee Department of Education is rolling out some baseline assessments that mirror the TCAP assessments that teachers will be able to use in their classrooms and build off of that data to find those gaps. Special ed, once again, students that have an IEP services, they will be in contact with their classroom teachers at their school and Mrs. Julie Vincent to make sure that we're in compliance with their IEP and getting the necessary services for all students. So we thought it was very important then that we put a section in here just about student expectations, because once again, our teachers reported to us in a survey at the end of the year that students didn't take this seriously because it was just optional. They didn't have to turn in their works. Well, that will all be different. This is whether they're distance or whether they're face-to-face, they will be turning that in. We're going to be using Google Classroom as our platform for face-to-face instruction and distance learning. We're going to be grading the work. They're going to be turning it in their Google Classroom. It is going to count in their 9-week average. We'll still be sending out progress reports. Teachers are going to give feedback to students, and students have the opportunity then to learn and adjust and maybe ask for additional. Once again, we've got PE, we have art, we have other enrichment, tier instruction. We'll take breaks, you know, lunch breaks and all. So it should mirror what would happen in a traditional face-to-face classroom. And we also know that some teachers need additional time to complete work, just like they do in the regular classroom, and teachers will be working on that. And we'll be submitting our work through the Google Classroom based on those Tennessee curriculum standards. And once again, to reiterate, we're going to be using our adopted curriculum materials.
Okay, questions for Dr. Milton as she went through the academic portion. We've been working very closely with the Upper Cumberland Core Office and making sure the academics, these plans have really been analyzed considerably in regarding making sure that we're doing everything that we needed to do.
Also the academic team, like Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Black's teams that were working, we had a lot of principal input. We had a teacher representative in that group. So we felt like we had a lot of our personnel involved in all of this information. Plus, we used a lot of the information that we got from those survey results.
I have questions for Dr. Melton now. I've had some questions myself in regard to distance learning, regarding distance learning versus real on campus learning is what we call it, live instruction. Now, been several questions asked about that. And so I'd like to take this time just for a second for everybody, if you would, to turn over to the appendix. And members of the audience can look on the website, ccsdn.net, and you'll look at the reopening framework, the framework for 2020-2021. This framework was developed with the academic team and, well, the whole task force, the entire task force dealt with this reopening framework. This is what we rolled out late last week. And you can see right now that we are in the level green traditional. And you can see the schedule, all student staff and physical buildings on regular schedule, breakfast, lunch, served. Now, some are utilizing the distance learning option. We're looking at that data right now. With Ms. Lisa Black, is we are looking at that, people are turning that in. You know, this every second, those 25 calls to look at. Those are being answered. But even in the level green, you've got students that will be doing the traditional learning, and then you will be some students that will be doing the distance learning. This will look differently than it ever has in our student system. So, but looking at some of the numbers that we got from Westside today, that distance learning was in the lower part. It was not as many that I've expected. Although Ms. Patterson has been, there's been an upward tick in homeschooling. Correct, Ms. Patterson, that you've received in the last several days. What we're doing in our contact with the parents and the guardians, we're doing them, would you like to do regular learning, being on campus, or you want to do the distance learning option? And we're getting, I think, good results with that as we move along through that process. So today's the first day on that. More to follow on that. So we look at the distance learning. That is the option even in level green. If we were to go to yellow, the level yellow, if you would turn to the next page, please. Here is the metrics for school closings that we're going by. This is the active cases, the number of cases, plus the number of probable cases. Now, we would have to get that. We will be getting that from the health department and be contacting them literally on a daily basis. If they see a spike, they will be getting in touch with us in regard, and then minus the number of recovery cases. So if you're listening along, it's the number of active cases, the number of confirmed cases, plus the number of probable cases, and then the number of recovered cases, tracking number of recovered cases. So, and then you can see what a confirmed case is and a probable case is, the definitions there, via the CDC guidelines. Now, the level determination, the information below, represents the threshold. Everybody's asking, what's the magic number? We don't know yet because it's changing that number is changing every single day. So, but we will have plenty of due notice if we were to go to the yellow or blended learning. Our communication is extremely important in this process. So we'll be in contact with our principals and we'll be getting the word out if we were to go to the level yellow. Right now, we are in the low. We are in the low spread category here for Cannon County. And then you will look at the percentage of the community infected. If it's less than 0.5%, fine, we keep going. We keep trucking along. And then notice where I marked in there, this is my handwriting, star there to be determined by the Cannon County, Tennessee Department of Health. So in this process, this will be determined by the Tennessee Department of Health, and we will get that. And that may be changing. And what I'll do with the board, we'll get you those numbers and probably do that in a weekly update on where we're at and see how these numbers are climbing. But there again, in this last week, we went up from, we saw it on on that opening slide in the prior PowerPoint, we went from 25 cases on July 6th to 41 cases here on the 13th. We measured from 41 to 81 between the 13th and the 21st. So this thing could change, but we will be on top of this and getting the word out of where, if we were to go to a level yellow and a level red. So and then again, communicate with the Department of Education and the Department of Health. So I want everybody to understand that's the differences between those processes of whether we're in green or we're in yellow or we are in red will be determined by the county active case rate of the Tennessee Department of Health. That's what we'll be looking at there. So any questions from the board in regard to these numbers? Okay. So we look at the metrics of that for school closing. If we were to close, this is what, or not closures itself, it's kind of redundant there, but if we were to make changes in the levels where we're at. Okay, any questions on that? I'm sure EMA, Roy, you're getting updates probably like we are, probably every day you're getting a newer update, is that correct? On the EMA side? So we've gone, like I say, from 41 cases week of July 13th to July 21st. Bonnie, do you receive any newer case data for today since that was the 21st? Have we gone up above 90? I know that. Okay, this is the week of July, so it's changing. Okay. So Mr. Wayland, who is the person that we deal with the health department, will be in contact with me and Ms. Patterson on a daily basis to see where we're at if we were to take a huge spike. But there is where we're at this juncture in time as of this moment, as I like to say. So any questions in regard to academics from section 2? And again, the choices are there for Canyon County citizens to make. The choices are there. And the choices are for distance learning or for the traditional on-campus learning. And we will be, again, rolling out in the morning. We will have a website fully operational that they can choose either one, and then they will register online. Ms. Mullins, I did have a question earlier today in regard to pre-K and pre-K registrations and kindergarten registrations. So you might want to talk to the board just briefly about kindergarten and pre-K because that is separate. Pre-K is separate in regard to that. So Ms. Mullins, I'll thank you for pre-K. So we did want to give you an update. We were going to give you an update as well on that. So any questions there?
If it was to go to that red where it has to be the distance for the families that either don't have a computer, things like that, how will that work?
Great question. We're going to answer that in the technology portion. We're going to give you an answer right there. To answer that, really, it depends on the grade of your student.
Okay, because I have one going in first grade and seventh grade.
Okay, so that will help answer that question. So we're going to talk about the technology portion on that part. So the distance learning is something that it is new for all of us, but guess what? It's new for everybody else in the state too. Everybody is, I've been on director calls with other fellow directors here at Upper Cumberland once a week, sometimes even more than that with other fellow directors. So they're having the same deal as what we are. We're good at the high school level, and at the upper grades we will be good. It's the lower grades is where we're going to have to do some work on what we need. So any additional questions or anything on section 4 of the academics? We also have Ms. Julie Benson, our new special education supervisor in regards to special ed will be a challenge. We know that. We know that going into, it's also a challenge for everybody else in the state. So we're working hand in hand with our consultants. Julia's working our business working hand in hand with our special education. So our special education folks that are listening, that Ms. Julie Benson is available to make contacts. Please call the office. That information is on the website. Get in contact with Ms. Julie. So we'll be working hand in hand with our special education students and our special education parents. So do anything I missed on that part? Okay, so anything else under section 4? Board members?
Anybody need a break? You just sit here 2 hours straight. Stretch a little bit. Nay. Let's take a 10-minute break here.
Posterity appreciate it. Okay. I'm sure.
I have not, it's probably.
This is refurbished. They've been refurbished in the probably what grade we think for those to refurb, 6th, 7th grade maybe, to those refurb units from the high school. That have been turned in over the years. It may have another additional year of life with those.
Okay. Before this series of Dell computers was the Samsung, and they're junk. They fell apart. They barely made it to 4 years. When we switched to Dell Chromebooks, we discovered they were a little more robust, and we have a pile of Dell Chromebooks that are good, we think, for another year. At least we know the software will not expire for another year. And they have 4 years of road wear on them, but I believe most of them are still functional.
And we can use those as the lower grades then. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Right, if we do decide to deploy middle school, then grades 5 and below would do the by request for the check-in and check-outs.
Okay, so, and one of the things too that you said was we're going to try to go ahead, and I want this for the board to know, we're going to go ahead and order our normal allotment that we usually put in there that has been budgeted. We're going to go ahead and try to get that order in ASAP.
Right, there's a order for 170 new Chromebooks. If we order those now, we will increase what we can get from the assistive grant. I don't know how many people have read the fine print on this technology assistive grant, but they're paying $200 for every third device that you purchase. So the more devices we get that we can turn in for that, the better. And the window for that is March 1st through September 1st devices. So we've got the devices for the high school that we normally purchase in the spring anyway. And we've got in the budget another set that would have been going to the high school next spring, but we can order those now and use those to restore the city seal Chromebooks that we're going to borrow for the 8th grade.
And so, Mr. Cofer, I did today, for the members of the board, I did do a PO for $41,197 earlier today to send for those Chromebooks so we can get in the line as soon as possible. So those Chromebooks have been ordered, and I've sent that since it was already in the budget. Let's get that in, because then if I can get $200 for every third device, then guess what? That's more money that we'll have in this for this particular technology grant. So I appreciate Mr. Cofer's hard work. This is going to take a lot of time from his staff, but those guys are up for it, and we are working very, very hard to make sure that we get one-to-one down to 5th grade. Now, the problem with that, if we were to go fully virtual, if we were to go into the red, if we get these deployed, as soon as we can, we got the order should be in. We're thinking right on that August, late August, early September timeframe.
That was, their projection was late August, early September.
And that would be probably that we're going to deploy those for what grade levels? 6th grade?
6 and 7. If everybody agrees, that's how we should move forward. Yes.
Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Cofer? Again, I want to brag on his staff. He's worked long and hard on this. We've looked at about every loophole we can find on this technology grant. And Mr. Cofer has been very diligent in that. So my appreciation to him publicly on looking at every device that we bought that we can put in to be reimbursed, because it didn't look good there at first, but it's looked better by the moment because of his efforts. So I'll say publicly thank you, Mr. Cofer. He's working, his crew, Tim Davis and also Michael Bedford, are working every minute of every day at schools and making sure that everything's up and ready to go. We have video cameras in every classroom, that we are able to do this, and some of my fellow directors do not have that capability in other places. So we're ahead of the game on a virtual response, being in distance learning, because we do have cameras in every classroom. So, Mr. Cofer, I appreciate that very much, and your efforts. Do we have any questions for Mr. Cofer? And what we're trying to do, and trying to get under the gun, but having, no one-on-one presence at all at the lower grades, meaning from 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, to having a presence in the digital part is, to me, tremendous. My appreciation toward him. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have regarding technology. If we have any questions for Mr. Cofer, either remotely or here among you.
We can cover down to 5th grade before we currently have.
We can cover middle school, 6, 7, and 8 with what we have. With the check-in, checkouts, with the check-in, checkouts, that's 315. Now that, just give you a ballpark, every grade is close to 150 students. So the check-in, checkouts would be enough to cover 2 more full grades. But in this situation, I wouldn't try to say give them all 5th and 4th. I would hold those for the whole population down for the lower grades.
For distance learning capabilities at the lower grades. If to be fully one-on-one, ladies and gentlemen, we would have to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 Chromebooks to be fully one-on-one from pre-K all the way up through the 4th grade. We'd have to have approximately 700 Chromebooks to be fully one-on-one for every student in Cannon County schools to have a device. So that's my question. That's my question to the governor. That's my question to the state legislature. That's my question. I need 700 Chromebooks in the city. And I will be yelling that to the rooftop if I have to say that this is what our students need in Cannon County. I don't need matching grants. I don't need this. I need 700 Chromebooks, what I need. And I'm prepared to go to Capitol Hill and proceed to ask for that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Communication notice that this is not, there's a little bit of a lengthy document, but not too much. I'm tasked with being the public information officer for Cannon County Schools. And part of that's part of my job description and part of my duties that is in board policy. And I uploaded that too as part of this artifact. But we've been working, communication is essential, whether that's local communication from schools to parents, from the district, For the classroom, I divided it up into three sections: the classroom level, the school level, and at the district level. And our schools are in constant communication as part of this process. We have multiple means and levels to maintain two-way communication with the school district and our 7 schools in Cannon County, with parents and guardians and stakeholders. So these modes of communication include classroom level, like I said, one-on-one telephone communication, emails, remind. We have the team looked and got together, and we have technology coaches at every Dr. Milton school. I think she talk about this even more. We have technology coaches at every school. And so what they're going to do is assist. We've decided we had Gojo, and we had Remind, and we had several other things, but we have decided we are a Google Classroom school system. So we will utilize Google Classroom, particularly for all of that. We will use Skyward to update attendance, grading, and contact information. And we will use Remind notifications for individual classroom information. So we're going to inundate with communication. Communication is essential from that classroom teacher to from them to the parent and the guardian. So we're working very hard on that. Teachers will receive additional training on that. And so at the school level, you've got weekly newsletters or sent to parents through print form, email, remind with urgent messages that are sent via Bright Arrow. We've been utilizing Bright Arrow. I hope you've been getting your notification for numbers, because we've been utilizing Bright Arrow, and teachers, parents, and everybody. We've been greatly utilizing it while we've been off. So that will continue for urgent notifications via the Bright Arrow system. Ms. Black helps me with that, and we get those notifications out that are instantaneous. Mr. Coker also is helping with that, and those are being done. On the district level, now on the school level, each school has a website. They also have, most all of them have Facebook pages that they're very active on social media. At the district level, as the PI of the Cannon County Schools, press releases, we're doing press releases, and we'll have some in the morning for you to adopt this right here. That'll be press releases will be going out. The district website contains the latest press releases and urgent information. We're in the process of establishing a Twitter account for Cannon County Schools. So if you're on Twitter, then you'll be getting notifications from the director of schools and Cannon County Schools via Twitter. So look for that forthcoming. As more of a social media presence. With these means, Cannon County Schools does its utmost to, quote, get the word out, unquote, regarding the near daily hourly changes due to COVID-19. Emergency communications, we know we have an emergency communication plan, and that is going forward. We work with EMA director and E911 coordinator very much so. We and him are in constant communication, it seems like. We're working on a grant right now to get radios on school buses. So Lois Holman and I are working hand in hand to try to get that complete as part of our safety grant. So emergency communications, we have a great relationship with E911, and they have been excellent. I'd like to also say to Mr. Coker, I appreciate anytime there is a 911 notification from our new phone system, guess who gets notified? We do. Principals do, I do. And so somebody's got a 911 from someplace, I want to know why that is, and then boom, we've got that instantaneous done. So it's all of us working together as a part of emergency communications. And then most all families in Cannon County have telephonic devices for communication, have the written copies available in newsletters and other notices from the school office, the district office, and the school. To those parents who have limited technology, we will send information. Our principals do an outstanding job with this. So principals, thank you so much for what you do in communication. The district's website and school website also allow parents to view important school information in their preferred language. We can do instantaneous on our website, can instantaneously get that translated into Spanish. We have our ESL coordinator is greatly involved in helping our Spanish-speaking parents, and particularly one of our SROs, Mr. Anthony Young, is very, very fluent in Spanish. So we utilize Anthony as a Spanish interpreter that we utilize across the district. And again, we are in partners with the community. And the community, there's partnerships with the local media in regular events. I appreciate WBRY, I appreciate the Cannon Courier, all of our local media outlets. We have some others that are involved in Facebook that we send those to Cannon County information that we send to them, and been very, very extremely cooperative to make sure that all our Cannon County community members are informed regarding particularly unexpected events. So there you have the communication portion. I'll be glad to answer any questions in regard to communication. We try to overkill with communication is what we try to do, whether it's at the school level, the classroom level, the school level, or the district level.
All right, anybody got any questions? Okay, we'll go to this August 11th. We'll talk about grades 1, 2, and 9.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the reopening framework, let's talk about that. We are doing, Mr. Sanders, I think, mentioned the word phase in. The first week of school will be a phased in time. And we're looking at assessments, we're looking at getting school back in operation and back going. On August 11th, our proposal is grades 1, 2, and 9 will report. Grades 1, 2, and 9 will report. Now you say, well, what about pre-K and kindergarten? That's what Ms. Mullins just asked back there. I heard her ask that. Check with your school and for individual schedule. They were phasing in anyway, correct, Ms. Mullins? So that is just like we've done in the past. And what's going to be happening during those phasing days, gentlemen, ladies, is this. They will be checking in because we did not get to have pre-K and kindergarten registration, pre-registration this year, the screenings and all of that. They will be taking place at the school level, correct, Ms. Mullins, on pre-K registration and kindergarten registration. So all of those screenings will be taking place during those days where they're phasing in, so we can get a rundown on where those students are academically. So that's going to be going on at pre-K and K. On August 11th, grades 1, 2, and 9 will report. We'll be getting this out to the press, and to every parent that we talk to, correct, Ms. Black, and we interview them, we tell them what grade is your student in. Well, this is the day that you need to get your stuff done, when you get the online registration done, then you will be reporting on grades 1, 2, and 9 on August 11th. On August 12th, grades 3, 4, 5, and 10 will report. On August 12th. On August 13th, grades 6, 7, 8, 11, and 12 will report. So the high school, we got those freshmen there on the 11th. They come in on the 10th grade on the 12th. 11th and 12th grade will report on August the 13th. So again, your upper grades, grades 6, 7, and 8, 11, and 12 will report on August 13th. And then on August 14th, everybody reports. On August 14th, on that Friday, August the 14th, everybody will report in Cannon County schools. And that's distance learning. And then so what's going to happen with these other grades? That's where we're distance learning. And our principals and teachers at that point will be checking on that distance learning to see how that is going to work during that first week. And then boom, here we are, all grades on August the 14th. So our teachers and our educational assistants, all those with special education assistants, all of that, all of our individuals will be very working hard on that August 14th date. And then we will full blast and full go as long as we're at level green level on August 14th. So that answers your question, Mr. Chairman.
All right, guys, I'm gonna open it up for questions. Nathan, you got anything?
guess one of the questions I have, obviously, we're trying to get there with the Chromebooks and technology and that sort of thing. Is it an option to do it the old-fashioned way and give them a handout packet type thing?
We're working with our principals on that very process. If for those that do distance learning, they're already saying, we've got the capability to do distance learning. Now, the question is, and I think everybody in this room wants to know that question, what if we go to a level yellow and then to a level red? Level yellow will get us there to say, this is what we're going to have. This is what we're going to have to do. And then if we were to continue to climb, level red would be where we would have to really focus on what you said, Mr. Sanders, and that is working with their parents on getting that information. With what Mr. Kofer said, with the capability to pull into the parking lot, whatever device we have, they can download, let's say, a week's worth of work or whatever that amount of work. They can download the videos, teachers can work on that. But by that point, hopefully we will get some lead time, if you will. In fact, Ms. Nichols and I discussed this earlier this week. If we can just get them in the high school for a day or two, just a day or two, then we can be ready for a level. I think most all of our other principals that are listening online right now, would probably chime in and tell you that. Give us a day or two to get this ready before we would go into a level yellow or a level red deal. And hopefully we will have a little bit of lead time before that occurs. But there again, that's my worst fear in this deal. I don't want to be afraid of anything, but that's my biggest concern is if we would go to a level yellow or level red quickly in the school year. And hopefully that's not going to occur, but things change rapidly in this world. But hopefully we would be ready to answer your question, that we would be ready for that. And for those that still have concerns about that, we will work with individuals. Lisa is working with parents right now. We're working with those. But if you're interested in doing the distance learning, you need to have that capability of the computers, what you're saying in real life. That's about the best we can do as of right now, because other systems, Mr. Chairman, are talking about hotspots and some using buses for hotspots or other places for hotspots. But our topography, as you've heard me say multiple times in Cannon County, makes that nearly an impossibility for us. Mr. Sullivan can also speak of the communications challenge Cannon County topography has. And to get everybody, if you want distance learning, you need to have that capability in your home for the internet. Hopefully I wasn't too lengthy in the answers.
Good. Brian, can you hear us? Cheryl, Rob? He's gone. What about you, Mr. Daniel?
He can see you, can he?
Can you hear us, Mr. Daniel? You got any questions?
He's still muted, Brian, we can't unmute.
I can only ask to unmute.
Bruce, can you unmute your device, please?
That's why I'm here.
That do it?
Oh, we got you.
Okay.
You got any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good. This is the most important vote I've cast in 8 years, so.
Sending the CKM. So, we'll work with them, I think, on an individual basis, and that's where our school principals will come in.
Julie, do you have any second graders that can run a Chromebook effectively?
First graders, I mean, you'd be surprised, I mean, kids nowadays are just more technology
They do.
I mean, my son is 9 and he can run some. And, right,
That's,
and really the
that's
front
impressive.
looks like you could just add a mouse, you know, too, that's the problem, that they have maneuvering the mouse and the laptops, but other than that, yeah, they can.
They can do it, okay. All right, guys, anybody got any more questions? Anybody?
I would say in the packet, Mr. Chairman, you got the calendar for 2021 and also the assessment calendar is on there for people who also look at that as part of this process.
Okay, got one more question.
We will adjust to that as well as, I don't need to tell you, that's a long way away. April's a long way away. So, that may change at the state level or at the state legislature level. I have heard some rumblings about not doing testing again this next year. We won't test it. I like to test it, but under this climate, my other educators that are here, Ms. Milton, she can, I'll talk to that, Dr. Milton, I'll talk to that too, but and with that, that question is, can you, that you know if you're distance learning, you'll have to come in to test. That's all I'm saying. If we do that. Hope I answered your question.
Anybody else? All right, guys, this time I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the reopening plan.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All right.
Motion made by Mr. Attorney, seconded by Mr. Sanders to approve the reopening plan for Cannon County Schools for the 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Daniel.
Aye.
Mr. Elrod has left us. Mr. Sanders.
Aye.
Mr. Turner.
Aye.
Chairman Fan.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 4 ayes, no nays.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it. We appreciate all our staff.